I am Paul Atreides, Duke of Arrakis! Louis Dimenaruk Ashidi!
Paul can perceive what could be the future, so he knows what he's doing, and he knows he doesn't have the choice.
The more he fulfills his desire of vengeance, the more he gets closer to one of his worst nightmares, which is the accomplishment of a prophecy foresaw.
This final scene where all the characters come together in one single room and each of one will meet his fate. It's a scene that was frightening for me because it's a scene that I had to make sure that each character will finish his journey and we will have to embrace many point of views.
Denis had a very clear vision of exactly what each character would be feeling and facing, stakes-wise, and he threaded that through the entire film. So by the time we got to this finale, he had carefully built to this moment.
Denis had this ability to see a bigger design, you know, and be able to hold that design intimately.
Frank Herbert was disappointed by the way a lot of fans perceived Paul Atreides at the end of the first book. They saw him as an heroic figure, and him at the opposite, he wanted to make a cautionary tale, a warning against charismatic leader, messianic figures, the danger of blending politics and religion together.
There's something kind of biblical about Dune. It's prophetic. I think this would make Frank Herbert very happy.
The film is very much about love and war, about destiny, about choices. So much of the film is about power dynamics.
It's like all of these puppets playing. That's what this whole scene's about.
You come in to the set and it's like, is this real? They're so huge, vast, but at the same time, so detailed. And then you see the images and you go, oh my God, how beautiful it is.
Gurney, it's time. Bring the prisoners.
I tried to make this more faithful to this idea that it's a cautionary tale. In order to do so, I needed a character that will be my moral compass. Shani is my moral compass, and I think it's more powerful this way.
This isn't over yet.
I want you to know I will love you as long as I breathe.
He will have to leave her and break her heart, and he will lose her forever, and that's the tragedy of Paul.
The stakes felt so high, and the energy of all these people. You're in a room, and you see Christopher Walken with Florence Pugh by his side. You see Javier, Josh Brolin, like it's crazy. And that was just so special.
I am Paul Atreides, son of Leto Atreides, Duke of Arrakis.
The entire film builds to this moment, and Denis done a beautiful job of having everything come together. It's truly a nail-biting scene.
Gurney,
My lord.
send a warning to all ships. If the Great Houses attack, our atomics will obliterate all spice fields.
You're out of your mind.
He's bluffing.
Consider what you're about to do, Paul Atreides.
Silence!
The story, at least to me and to Paul Atreides, is primarily about a young man not wanting to accept his destiny or his fate that's unfolding before him.
This is about somebody truly growing into maturity, and it's something that we can all identify with.
I'll take the hand of your daughter. She will remain safe, and we will rule together over the Empire. But you have to answer for my father.
The Emperor's goal is power, regardless of what that costs him or what that costs to others.
I think Frank Herbert was very ahead of his time, and it was very important that this story is being told this way.
It feels so modern in the way of dealing with the corruption and the lies in the world and people greedy for power and just all the parallels that we have today.
Your father was a weak man. stand, or choose your champion.
I'm here, Atreides.
Paul and Fade find themselves at the epicenter in the story at a moment where only one of them will be able to get the throne. They are perfectly a nemesis of each other.
Paul is there to survive. It's a matter of life and death. Fade Atreides technically is a narcissistic figure that is there for pleasure.
Fade has plans to become the Emperor himself, so as he gets closer and closer, he can smell it. He can sort of taste the blood and water.
Austin portrayed a kind of psychotic serial killer.
He's a character that lives in the absolute present time. It's about the bravado, it's about the spectacle. He's not afraid of pain, and that gives him tremendous advantage on his opponents.
I'm happy to finally meet you, cousin.
Cousin? Is that right? Well, you wouldn't be the first relative I've killed.
The dynamic and the intensity between Fade and Paul, as well as Paul's admission that they're actually related, brings a level of stakes to what could, on its own, just be an incredible fight sequence, but it's so much more.
May thy knife chip and shatter.
May thy knife chip and shatter.
We made sure that there was a contrast in the fighting styles of both fighters, that they are coming from different culture, using different technique. There was an evolution on Paul's ways of fighting, where at first he fights like an Atreides with his movements, and the more the fight evolves, the more he becomes friendly.
There's a lot of story going on in there, and it's, I think, an incredibly thrilling conclusion to the film.
She's your pet?
I created the geography of the fight. There's a back and forth between the Emperor and Shani. And Paul is like going back to her, getting away from her, getting back to her.
Any special attention for the pet?
And he knows his fate. He knows that at a precise moment he's gonna get stabbed. And he knows that that's the narrow window, the narrow path he has to walk through, to face, to be as close as possible to death in order to survive the violence of this opponent, his nemesis.
When Paul is starting to get really bloodied and losing, he goes where his last experience of just not caring about death, and that was with what he saw Jamis do, and so he does the salute of a Fremen. It's kind of like a samurai.
We tried, Roger and I, in the choreography to have this tension until the very end, even if you know that most of the time hero prevails. There's a moment where you start to have doubt. We are still, I think, for the Dune fan, traumatized by the death of Duncan Idaho. We know that Frank Herbert took no prisoners. We know that anything could happen at that moment. The way he dies, in some ways, is like a surprise of the skills of Paul, and that is more important for him than to die.
You fought well, Atreides.
When he says at the end you fought well, he's sincere.
Listen, Gabe!
For me, it was really moving to see the commitment. You know, as a filmmaker, there's nothing more rewarding than to feel that the people you are working with commit to the movie as much as you do. When I make a movie, I put my life into it. So when I see that my colleagues are ready to go all the way with me and give everything, it brings tears in my eyes. I mean, it's like that's the joy of filmmaking.
think Chani is probably the only character who's not driven by power. She's very much the voice of reason and has a much more evolved worldview.
I love the religious aspect of this. I love the political aspect of it, because with belief comes control.
You should have believed. You chose the wrong side. Side? You of all people should know. There are no sides, Reverend Mother.
The life debt has been paid. Spare my father now, and I will be your willing bride. The throne will be yours.
Christopher Walken is bigger than life. He has that kind of insane charisma and presence that reverberates in all the room. I tried to stretch the tension as much as possible between both until it reached a point where the Emperor feels that if he doesn't bow down, he's going to get stabbed. It was very precise how both of them were absolutely ready to go there and create that moment that I'm in love with.
Lord, the great houses have answered. They refuse to honor your ascendancy.
We await your orders, Zan al-Gaib.
Lead them to paradise.